Welcome and Happy New Year, everybody, to a whole new year of Dead Talk Live. And tonight, we are kicking the year off right with the Manson brothers themselves, Chris Margetis and Mike Carey. Guys, welcome to the show. How you guys doing?
Hey, John,
Good, man.
we're great,
How are
man.
you?
Thank you so much for having us on again.
Oh, man, I love talking to you guys. By the way, what'd you think of that new promo? Huh?
Oh,
That
was
new
awesome.
intro.
the really bad part about it is the only bad thing is you see a guy like Keith David, right? And then all
Yeah.
of a sudden you cut to Mike and I, and I'm sure your fans are like, what in the hell is going on? The good news is, though, this is the good news. Since you're having us on first, we're the first guests in the new year, right?
Exactly.
Well, everybody who's watching, it only gets up from here. It only gets better. So your fans will be happy. So.
You know, I have not done a show in 3 weeks, and that is the longest span that I have gone in almost 3 years. So I had a lot of free time for the holidays, and I've been an amateur video editor for 20 years now. So not being rushed or anything, I just sat back and I created that intro. I created some promos. It's funny how much you actually enjoy your job in creating when you're not pressured to do so, you know?
I couldn't agree more.
You know, when you don't have that rush or that, deadline and you can just sit back and create, it's just phenomenal. So,
Well,
you guys...
we have a saying. Chris and I have a saying, and it's never force a joke. And that's the same with creating anything. If you force it,
It's going to be shit.
Yeah, it's tough.
It's going to be
That is
shit.
definitely tough.
Now, you guys are the stars of the Manson Brothers Midnight Zombie Massacre. The last time we spoke, it was before it premiered. The movie was named as one of the top horror movies in 21 by JoeBlow.com. Congratulations on that. I mean,
Thank you.
that is a great mention right there. And now you guys have
been very good to us.
And now you guys have your own YouTube show called The Manson Brothers Show. And before we even go into talking about it, let's give viewers a little taste by just watching a little short clip from your latest episode where you guys break down The Exorcist. So let's check this out.
Anyway, Fendi, they find the statue of Pazuzu.
And Pazuzu is only like this big.
No, I think he's really big in the Middle East.
From a size perspective? Or
Yeah,
from a-
no, I think it's a big statue they uncover it. Or maybe it just looks that way. I don't know. Either way.
I'm just going to throw this out there. Pazuzu shows up in a bunch of movies
He does?
and a bunch of shit. What is going on with Pazuzu?
Oh, now, okay, that's hysterical. I love the interaction between you guys. Now, that got me thinking. In The Exorcist, the original movie, I don't think Pazuzu is actually named until the following movies.
No, he's not. I don't think they don't mention him until the second one.
Yeah.
They do show the very Pazuzu-esque face, though, right? I mean, that's kind
Yeah,
of
they show that.
the
They show
hallmark
the
of-
effigy of him,
Yeah.
but they don't mention him by name. That doesn't come up till later.
And, of course, we see the statue in the beginning with Max von Sydow, looking at that really scary-ass statue. And then that scene that you're talking about is sort of like a controversial scene where we get that split second of Linda Blair's face sort of flipping to her, to Pazuzu.
Oh yeah, that real weird looking, like that with the white face with the dark under the eyes and
That's
stuff.
the Pazuzu look. That's him or her or whoever it
Yeah.
is. Whatever.
Yeah, so there's a statue
pronoun
of
is these days.
and then there's an image of Pazuzu. It's two different things. I think.
Exactly. Now, I don't know if you guys watched this show, but several years ago, there was a show called The Exorcist that hit TV. It lasted for
I auditioned for it. That was shot here in Chicago, actually.
Really? Wow.
Yes.
Did you audition for Pazuzu? Was that who you auditioned for? They're going to paint your face
I
white?
auditioned for Man with His Pants Down Around His Ankles, number 3.
No wonder you. I know why you didn't get that one.
But anyway, I'm watching this show, and when it starts off, you're thinking they just took the Exorcist name and they're making something completely new and different. But halfway through the first season, I got so pumped up when I found out that Gina Davis's character was Reagan from the movie.
Oh, I didn't know that. I haven't seen the thing, so
yeah, you guys.
That's a very cool angle. I never saw that myself, but I like that idea. Yeah,
I'm there watching the show from my couch, and she's sitting in church. She's going under a whole new name now, Angela or whatever. And she's telling her story to a priest, and she's like, my name is not Angela. My real name is actually Reagan. And that's very cool. Jaw-dropping reveal moment. Yeah. And it got me so pumped up. I was just excited. You guys should watch it. The first season was all about Reagan's story, like, to the present, from the 70s to now, and what her life has become like. And the second season follows a whole other family and what they're dealing with. And I was really upset. It was on Fox. I was really upset that Fox canceled it. You know what I mean?
Well, let me tell you a little secret about Fox.
And cancellations.
Lay it on.
Yeah. I've been on a number of Fox TV shows as an actor. And Fox has a really bad habit of canceling things before they're able to get a grip with an audience.
Exactly.
Some shows take a little more time, like I'll give you a good example, like Homeland or Game of Thrones. That took at least like half the season for me to sort of get invested in it.
Absolutely.
And there's a saying here, if Fox produced Seinfeld, it would have been canceled the first season. That would have been it. They don't give anything a chance at all.
Yeah.
Or as my wife likes to say, I've killed more TV shows here in Chicago than a power outage. So.
And I don't know what's going on with these studios. I mean, it feels like they have to produce a hit show in the first episode, and that's just not them. That's just not possible.
I think it's like that a lot in the film side too. Because I mean, if you guys remember when we were kids, and not even kids, I mean older, Titanic ran for what, a year and a half. Indiana Jones ran for multiple years. Those kind of things. Those movies ran forever, and now you make all your money on the opening weekend, and that's how they base the success of a film, or a failure. Which,
exactly.
Well, if you pull back the focus on that a little bit, that goes back to also the instant gratification that we have with everything these days. Whether it's Amazon or food, DoorDash or what have you. We want instant gratification. Well, it's the same way with the studios. They want instant gratification. They want gangbusters right out the opening weekend, but some things just aren't like that. I mean, we could name a bunch of.
Welcome, Dead Talk Live fans, to three old cranky guys complaining about things nowadays.
But that is so true. What Mike is saying.
With your rock and roll music and your Dan Fogelberg.
But it's so true, because even on social media, they say you have to start off your video, whether it's a clip or whatever, by grabbing the audience in the first 3 seconds. Well, and I post a lot of videos, and I can tell you by looking at the numbers afterwards, on even a fade into black shot with the first frame is going to do horrible compared to an explosion on the first frame. It's the
if you watch our show, we do the same thing, and we were kind of told at the beginning, we always had this kind of introduction style thing, and then you go into the show, but it came out like, guys, you need to explode with like 30 seconds or less, and then we'll go to the to the intro, and then we'll come back, and it's how we do the show. I don't know if I'd say we explode with it, but
you guys have that whole wrestling
very
setup.
Punchy at the beginning with it. I mean, he does the intros, and he's really punchy about them, and that is attention grabbing. I mean, I don't know what else we could do aside from fire a gun off in here, which would probably deafen us, but
we'll try that next time.
But if you look at trailers, the trailers are that way too. It's always a downbeat bass chord,
Right.
and then a big explosion
Yeah.
and then a clip. It's all the same.
It's
Even
the
with romantic
world
comedy.
of the span of the scrolling feed. You know what I mean? You're scrolling, and
Yeah.
unless
Amen.
something grabs you, you lose them. You lose them.
Yeah.
Now,
I also think it's because Hollywood, the movie industry in general, treats the audience like the audience is idiots.
yeah,
Right? They do. So
Yeah.
they've come up with this manufactured thing that, oh, if you don't do this, you're not going to get a lot of viewers or whatever. And I think that that's been a forced narrative, right? I think if you went back to the old way, you would get just as many viewers. They would learn to like let it breathe a little bit.
Exactly.
Let it breathe, man.
and now
I think a big part about I'm sorry,
No,
John, I
no,
just
no,
want to
go
add
on.
on to what Mike said. I think a huge part of it, especially in our world with horror films and things like that, and everything you discussed, John. I think that's one of the best parts about the genre is that it's so tight knit between everybody that it gives projects time to breathe and catch their audience, and you don't necessarily see the immediate successes. It's word of mouth and it carries on. And I mean, Mike and I have noticed that from doing some shows this year that the crowds are, they're slowly but surely building, and hopefully that continues. And it gives me great hope for independent films, particularly in the horror genre, not just ours, but to watch people talk and have the things pick up steam and create buzz like there used to be,
Exactly.
and find some successes.
And then you have people like James Cameron, where everything he touches is $1 billion movie on the first weekend. I mean, the sequel to Avatar broke like $1 billion in less than 10 days.
Yeah.
I'm like, holy.
Hey, God bless them.
Yeah.
I mean,
I wish it would happen to us, but
I wish we had their catering budget to make a movie.
yeah, right. If we just had their catering budget, we could make a $50 million film.
Seriously, yeah.
Well, I initially thought before the movie hit the screens, I'm like, you know what? We're like onto a whole new generation now because it's been so long since the first one came out. I think this one is not going to do that well, but damn if I was wrong. I mean, that thing is blowing up the theaters, blowing up the box office, and God bless James Cameron. I don't know if he's like has a voodoo doll or something at home, made a deal
he
with
does,
the
it's
doll.
working. That's for sure.
Yeah, whatever acificity bag he's got or whatever, it's working. So
I saw it said recently, somebody, I can't remember who made the comment. I look at projects like Avatar like this, and I haven't seen it, so I'm not disparaging.
Well, neither have I. Yeah.
Hollywood isn't making movie stars anymore. They're making kind of franchise stars. Like when you go and listen, I love the Marvel universe as much as anybody, but it's Thor more than it is Chris Hemsworth. It's Captain America more than it is Chris Evans. It's the guys they're more their characters now. They're not bankable to go do any project they want and make money.
Exactly.
They're bankable as Iron Man, but I think that's a shame, because one of the things I thought was the coolest thing about movies when I was a kid was the great movie stars, the Clint Eastwoods and God, I mean, even guys like
John Wayne,
but I'll even take
Davis
it
for that matter.
I'll even take it to like Jean-Claude Van Damme and guys like that who were just they were money at the stuff that they did, and was he a movie star like Jack Nicholson? No, but he was a bankable guy in an action movie, and he
wasn't an actor like Jack Nicholson, but he was a movie star.
But it was going to be a good time no matter what, and that's one of the things I think has really been lost and is a shame, is that you don't have that real. I mean, Dwayne Johnson is kind of that way, but even with him, there's a little bit of an expectation of what you're going to see, and
exactly, it's the role.
He's more
it's
of
the
an
role,
image than
like
he
you
is
said,
anything else.
Thor,
and that's fine.
Yeah,
and I don't begrudge him that, and God bless him, because man, I'd like to be doing what he's doing.
Absolutely, absolutely. Now, you guys in this latest episode of yours talk a little bit in depth about Linda Blair. Linda Blair, for me, growing up, I loved watching her on the screen. Of course, she's going to forever be known for The Exorcist and all the stories we heard surrounding her and how she got sick when she first watched it in the theaters and so on. But I want to mention to you guys two other films that Linda Blair did back in the 80s. And I don't know if you've seen them or not, but one of them was called Chained Heat. Okay.
Yes.
I have not seen it, but I've heard of it.
No.
Oh, we got to do a show about that.
All right.
Chained Heat, she co-stars with one of my guests, Sybil Danning. Okay.
Yeah. I know
Now,
Sybil Danning.
Sybil Danning was like a sex.
She's the femme fatale.
Yeah, she was amazing. And talking to her, I mean, she is such an open woman, and she made quotes like, the female breast is a very beautiful thing. And I'm like, I agree with you.
I agree wholeheartedly.
Yeah. And to hear her talk.
Check them out in Howling 2.
Yeah. But she went on to say that when Chained Heat came out, the weight of promoting that film fell on her shoulders, because there's a scene in the movie where it's a prison movie. It's a female prison movie where there's an assault that happens in the shower scene. And we see Linda Blair topless, and she felt and Sybil shared with me, she felt so uncomfortable filming that and was really embarrassed when the movie came out that Sybil had to do all the promoting. She had to go to all the events to promote the film. And it just goes to show you how times have changed and what life was like back in the 80s and the kind of mentality you had to have. I mean, this movie, Sybil said Linda Blair was really ashamed of it. I mean, what are your thoughts on that, Mike, and how things have changed? And
well, I think I like it better the old way, where it was more like a road show, especially for the quote unquote B films,
Yeah.
They would send these stars out on the road with a print, and they would show up at a theater or whatever. And for the lower budget films, that's what it was. And I really think it was better that way. I really do. You don't have when something took time to build across country, right? You didn't have the instant media that we have now, where, like another good example of that is Halloween.
Yeah.
They released Halloween, and it sort of went across the country before it really got its rubber on the road, and it was better that way. I would have loved to have done that with Manson Brothers. And actually, we had discussed that at one point in time, of Chris and I, of us going out, getting a venue, showing up there. People wouldn't know who the hell we were anyway.
Doing a Q&A, right? Like doing a Q&A type of thing?
Yeah.
Yeah, doing a Q&A. We do a little live bit in character, usually when we go to the horror conventions, and it goes over really well. Doing that kind of stuff. And just, a little goodwill, a little promotion. And I think a lot of that goes a long way. The problem today is your stuff gets lost amid the myriad of other, thousands of movies that come out constantly.
We did get a little chance to do a bit of that when the film released. We got to do a drive-in festival one time.
Yeah, that was great.
We had a premiere at the legendary Music Box in Chicago, the famous independent film theater, where we got to do a little bit of that. And I think especially for Mike and I, that's really our wheelhouse. We love to interact with fans, or even people that are just horror fans that don't know who in the hell we are. There's a lot of those out there too.
Even people that come up and like, hey, you guys suck. And we're like, great, thanks for coming out.
Yeah, I mean, it's just, it's nice to be able to talk with people who, are like-minded. We like the same stuff. We're the lucky guys that got to do it. But I mean, that would have been awesome for us, because we love going out and interacting with anybody who's around.
If we could have done that drive-in setup, 1,000 more times, I wouldn't have complained. I mean,
that was fantastic.
Great.
Yeah.
And it sounds like you guys just really enjoy listening to the fans, meeting them. And
I'll tell you,
it's the best part, man.
Without sounding arrogant, we're the two most grateful guys in the world for anyone that watches our show, watches the movie, reaches out and says, "Hey, I saw your movie. It really was fun." And or "Hey, I watched the show." We love that. I mean, we are so happy to get feedback, and we interact with people all the time on social media and whatever, and that's really the worth doing it.
Exactly.
It's fun. It's actually been a fun part about the YouTube show too, because we do get a lot of responses, and they're not all 100% positive. But we respond to everything, and listen, if somebody tells us we suck, that's okay. Not everybody's going to love it, I'm happy to hear the critiques and everything that goes on.
My wife thinks we suck.
It's interesting with the YouTube show because we're in character. We're not what you're seeing right now. I mean, it's been quoted before that aren't we always in character, but we're not. And so sometimes there's kind of that line where we have to say, hey man, this is Stone Manson talking about this, not Chris.
Exactly.
But yeah, that is the absolute best part, is getting to talk to people who again love the genre. Talk about other movies that we both like, right? I mean, like that's one of my favorite things, or scenes fans in the film. Yeah, we are. I mean, that's been the best part.
Fans, and we love talking to other people because they speak our language. I mean, we're all fans, or we wouldn't be sitting here, right?
It's the same reason why, John, I turned into your show to watch when people I know are on there, and I want to hear about things from the film. I mean, I find that to be one of my favorite takeaways from the entire last year. Came from your show, and it was, we had been bandying around the idea of being on a streaming service, and to us it felt like the place where movies go to die, right? Where when it's free and that kind of thing. And I was listening to I can't remember his name. He was from Terrifier. He plays Art the Clown. And he actually said, their movie really picked up traction when they went to Netflix, when they went to the place where you wouldn't think that would be it, because that got the most eyeballs on it.
Exactly.
And, to me, that was a really eye-opening moment. And had I have not watched your show, to see somebody in a film that I had watched, I would have never found that out. I think
that really cool turned our heads about that.
Yeah, absolutely.
And right now, as far as our movie is concerned, we're just trying to get exposure on it.
Mm-hmm.
And, as much, it was on Tubi for a while, and I think it got a lot of play on Tubi, which was great. We'd love to go on Netflix, if you're listening. But we're happy.
Well, I've got some connections.
I'll stand on the corner.
There you go, John. There you go.
I'll tell you what, though, but YouTube, what most people don't realize is it's like the top video streaming platform.
Really?
More than Netflix and anything. Yeah. Billions of people tune into YouTube.
The problem is there's so much out there.
Exactly.
Like we're still trying to figure out the pitfalls of how to get an audience.
Algorithms.
Right, algorithms.
Getting found. Oh my God. Yeah. When I started this thing, and I'm still learning how to tweak it here, tweak it there, just to build it up and keep getting more viewers. Now, going back to Linda Blair, I've got a second movie. 80s. Right. This is another 80s B low-budget horror movie called Hell Night. I don't know.
I love that movie.
Love Hell Night.
I love Hell Night. We're
actually going to do a show on that.
Now, it's got a Van Patten in it, right?
Yeah.
Did we talk about that on the show? Yeah.
It's from 1981, and for people who haven't heard about it, it's a bunch of college fraternity sorority kids pledging, and they have to spend the night in this mansion that has a folklore around it about a man who killed his family, and the Garth brothers. Wasn't that their names? I think they were the Garth brothers.
I haven't seen it for a while, but I think it was like that. And the thing about it was, here's the funny thing about that film. That came out during the slasher cycle of the 80s.
Yeah.
And before I had seen it, I assumed it was another slasher movie, which it's not.
No.
So if you have not seen this film, watch it. In fact,
it's a really good movie. Really good.
One of our upcoming shows.
Absolutely. I love that film. And that's just another film. It came out in 81. That's just ingrained as part of my childhood. Now, I want to play another clip. From your show. And this is on you, Chris, where you're talking about Washington, D.C. It's not anything bad, but let's check it out.
Anyway, Fendi, they find the statue of Pazuzu.
And Pazuzu is only like this big.
No, I think he's really big in the Middle East.
From a size perspective?
I think it's a big statue they uncovered. Or maybe it just looks that way. I don't know. Either way.
I'm just going to throw this out there. Pazuzu shows up in a bunch of movies.
He does?
And a bunch of shit. What is going on with Pazuzu?
All right. It got cut off there, but going back to the whole DC thing, Chris, you mentioned that, DC... you're right. It's just a political shit show.
It's interesting. Again, that's Stone Manson speaking and not Chris. However, in defense of Stone Manson...
Disclaimer!
Chris was one time the best man in a wedding in Washington, D.C., and I tried to organize a bachelor party for this wedding. And I couldn't, let's just say I couldn't find the appropriate places to go, appropriate places to go for a bachelor party. And I remember being there the whole weekend and trying to find, like, say, what's the best, I don't know, let's say steakhouse in town, or what's the best place to go for cocktails, and nobody could really come up with anything. And I came to this conclusion that while it's obviously known for politics, and it's the hub of politics for the world, for God's sake, it's just not known for a whole lot of other things. And like I said, the sports teams are all pretty bad.
Don't tell
no
that,
one's really from there.
Don't tell that to
right?
the Redskins fans, or whatever they're called now.
I know. Yeah, the Commanders.
The Commanders, yeah.
The Commanders. Everybody's a transplant, you know what I mean? So there's not a lot of homegrown folks like Chicago.
Hey, some of them people need them organs. Don't be banging on transplants.
Yeah, it's
well,
it's an interesting town. So
I'm a transplant to this area from New York City. I'm born and raised for 23 years. I've been living in Northern Virginia now for 25 years. And Mike, you said something interesting. You were talking about famous people from the D.C. area, and you mentioned Dave Grohl from the Foo Fighters.
Yes.
Now, I'm a huge, Foo Fighters fan. I love Dave Grohl, and that leads me to Dave Grohl's horror movie. Have you guys seen Studio 666?
I have, yes.
Okay, that is a horror comedy directed by another one of my guests, B.J. McDonnell, and it's a horror comedy, okay? And it leads us to the next point. I think horror comedies and pulling off that balance is probably one of the trickiest things in making a horror film. All right?
Agreed.
I mean, Chris, what are some of the secrets to pulling off a good horror movie where you maintain the horror aspect, but yet add some light comedy to it as well?
Well, I secrets would be if I was 100% convinced that we'd pulled it off, but I feel like we did to a degree.
You guys did a great job in Manson Brothers.
Well, thank you very much. I think one of the things that at least from our film it was really important was we wanted to make sure that when we did something that was comedic, it was comedic, but that when we did something that was violent or action based or whatever, that wasn't comedic, that was 100% as gory as we could make it or as action packed as we could make it. And I think we tried to let the comedy be, like locker room natural humor, versus kind of punchline beat, type of comedy. So I feel like that was, at least for ours, a big part of it. I just saw another horror comedy movie last week called Bloody Hell. It's an Australian one, and I feel like that one really pulled it off well too, because again, all the humor kind of happens with the guy talking to himself, and the rest of it is just a nightmare scenario with a lot of violence. And so I think if you really, if you want to go straight comedy with some horror, I think you set it up differently than the way we tried to do it. So I think there's a couple different routes you can take, and I feel like,
So basically, like Mike, it's basically compartmentalizing the horror from the comedy and let them have their own place in the film.
I think I'm trying hard to get this out and explain it the way I think it in my head. But the way that I see it, and this is not just with our film, but of other films I've seen that have been able to pull it off, and some of them unintentionally. There have been some very, very serious hardcore horror movies that have had very funny moments in them, and I'll give you one. In the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre, arguably, that's one of the greatest horror films, at least of the 70s. And it is not a comedy by anyone's perspective, right? Yeah. There's a scene where the older guy, the older family member, is coming home with the hitchhiker guy after Leatherface had cut the door apart, and he's bitching at him, and he goes, "Look what your brother did to the door." I mean, it's hysterical. It's hysterical. And I think the trick is that the the actors in the scene have to play it 100% straight and not wacky.
Yeah.
No matter what their character is, they have to play that character and not like go off the reservation with the comedy. So that way you have funny, like Chris said, and then when something serious happens, it's shocking. And we tried to do a couple of those things in our film. We had something really funny happen, and then 5 seconds later, something where the audience goes,
yeah.
And I love that particular part because every time I watch it with an audience and that happens, I go, oh, we got him,
Yeah.
And I think that's really the trick. And to create the comedy with the characters, not create the comedy with the situation. The characters in and of themselves are funny, right? Look at Reanimator. Look at
I was
Evil
actually
Dead.
going to mention that. Like, I consider
that.
Reanimator to be kind of a horror comedy, and part of it is because of the lunacy
100%.
factor. I think that's the perfect example. I mean, anybody would look at that and say, "Well, that's a horror movie, man." There's 55-gallon buckets of blood in every single scene.
But if you really take it to an extreme, it does kind of turn into a comedy.
Absolutely.
I'm going to tell you, Goodfellas is a comedy.
Yeah.
That's not a horror movie, though.
Goodfellas is a comedy. I watch Goodfellas, and I challenge you not to find funny moments in that movie.
Oh, absolutely.
Well,
Joe Pesci. Just the dialogue with De Niro and all the other Goodfellas.
The term Karen was created from that movie. So,
Exactly. Oh, man. Goodfellas is one of my favorite gangster movies of all time.
Well, one of the real quick, just to close on this one, when Chris and I started the process, when we decided we were going to do this, I called him up and I said, listen, I got an idea. Here's the thing. No matter how absurd the situations get in the film, we're going to play it straight.
Yeah.
Like 100%. Even though our characters are funny, right? They're funny. He's funny because he's an alcoholic, degenerate gambler. And my character's funny because he's an idiot. But
who doesn't know that he's
Spanish? Nature. We don't break the character, right? And
not only does he not know Spanish, he doesn't even know what Spanish is.
Right. Exactly. He doesn't know what Spanish is. And I think that you have to approach it seriously. If you approach it seriously, then the comedy's way funnier. Yeah. It's not funny when we go, okay, here comes the punchline, right? Bang.
I think they pulled that off with Studio 666 because I liked it. I didn't feel like they played it for the comedy, but like they did good. The kills were outstanding.
Oh yeah.
And a couple of them were very comedic, which I thought was in a good way.
I'm noticing.
But I thought they did a really good job with it.
Me too. I'm noticing an uptick in the amount of horror comedies coming out. Is that because there's a demand for them?
I hope there is.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. I mean, I think, ours, to be quite honest, ours did not start off as a comedy.
No.
But people read the script and were like, man, we were laughing our ass off. And we're like, seriously? Like, we would write some funny parts.
I mean, even the
opening again, where the brothers
scene,
talking to each other.
The opening scene where you go into the story with the father, these redneck trailer, middle of the desert.
Well, that came after.
Well,
that came after production. Believe it or not.
We had to shoot that post production because.
So here's some inside baseball. We had shot all these.
Work.
Mike and I did like a half a day of still photography where it's leading from the Mansons in their 20s all the way up, and then there's mug shots and there's paparazzi photos of us getting arrested and all this other stuff where it leads to the downfall. And Max called us about a month after, Max Martini, our director, after we shot, and he's like, "It's just not working. What do we do?" And God bless Mike, he ripped off that scene. And they shot it. We decided to put it in a comic book world, which kind of gave us an out to do whatever.
Well, wait a minute. Hang on. In fairness, that was Max's idea.
Yes, it was.
It was Max's idea for the comic book and the trailer park people. And I did write it, but it was.
But you banged out the script in no time. Yeah.
Yeah.
That was hysterical.
And a little secret: if anybody out there's seen the movie Eli, Charlie Shotwell. From Eli, who's the star, is our little kid in the beginning of the movie.
Really? Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah, actually, I knew that, but I've forgotten all about it. That's another great movie right there, Eli.
Yeah.
And another great horror comedy that's recent as well that's on Shudder is called Deadstream, about a live streamer on YouTube who's willing to do anything. And the last thing he has not done yet on his bucket list is stay at a haunted house. So you can imagine how wrong
I'm sure
that
it's good.
goes. I had the
I want to watch that now. I might watch that when we're done.
and that is becoming
I'll
very
throw
popular.
I'll throw out another option for people. There's one on, I think it's on Shudder, called Yummy. And
Oh,
it's
I haven't
about
heard of that one.
these people
yeah.
who go to this Eastern European hospital to get plastic surgeries,
Uh-huh.
and the people become zombies, and it's awesome. It's like,
We gotta check those out.
That's worth a watch. I don't know if I'd call it a comedy, but it has some
oh,
funny parts.
it's got its comedic moments, but of course everybody
There's lots
watch.
of them. I mean,
go
there's
see-
Return of the Living Dead, and there's Fright Night, and
Be sure to watch the
Student
Manson Brothers
Bodies
Midnight
is
Zombie
another
Massacre before all of these suggestions.
Absolutely.
And
I mean,
Go to the
guys,
suggestion.
your guys' movie, it's
Shameless
hysterical.
plug.
It's funny, it's scary. There's so many moments in that film. The interactions between you two guys is what makes the film, and then all the other stuff added in.
Thank you.
With the guy stuffing his underwear.
Well, wait a minute.
Big
Let me
Wang.
give you another inside baseball about that particular character. So in the movie, that particular character is called Big Wang, and he's a professional wrestler with a great big wang. But originally, Big Wang was a huge Asian guy. But we couldn't find a huge Asian actor to play the part.
Oh my
So
god!
we had to make him. So Max said, let's just make him a guy with a big wang. So we're like, okay.
And then the sock.
Yeah, and Sean Dillingham, who plays the character, is just a phenomenal actor. He's in a ton of stuff, and he just pulled it off.
Great stand-up comedian too.
Yeah.
You know, one of the things that I wanted to touch on just very briefly, and the YouTube show itself. I mean, that was kind of the genesis of the YouTube show, was when we got asked to do it. You know, the guys at Joe Blow have been great to us, and they, you know, highly ranked our movie. And later on, as we kind of developed a little relationship going forward, they, you know, asked us if we'd be interested in doing a show. But the one thing they wanted us to do was have it be in character. Yeah. Because they wanted that constant interaction.
Yeah, I totally. I mean,
Stone and Skull, you know, to be the basis for it.
Exactly.
And it's been a lot of fun.
Exactly. And it's fun seeing you guys, you know, in character. In the last episode, Mike, you're wearing the Fez hat because of the Middle East.
What you do in the Middle East? Chris has one too, but he forgot to bring it.
I forgot it. My son uses it to keep all his not credit cards, but gift cards in it, so I couldn't take it from him. You know.
Anyway, we're out of time. I want to thank you guys so much. I can't believe we're almost into 40 minutes. The movie, guys, is called The Manson Brothers Midnight Zombie Massacre. Where is it streaming exactly right now?
I think it's still on Tubi, but you can get it on Amazon or
all the major
Apple TV anywhere.
It's on YouTube, Amazon, iTunes, Vudu, Redbox, IMDb,
awesome.
Video on demand everywhere, and you can purchase the Blu-ray or DVD off of Amazon, or if you get it off our website, we'll sign it for you.
Nice.
We'll sign it for you. And new shows of the Manson Brothers show come out every Monday on the Arrow in the Head Show Network on YouTube. So everybody join us, send us emails. We love to answer questions.
Please give us a like,
have a blast.
subscribe to the channel.
Yeah, subscribe to the show, watch it. They're in character, so it's like every Monday you're getting another part of the Manson Brothers. So definitely check it out.
Whether you like it or not.
Sequel coming soon.
I want to thank my guests, the Manson Brothers, Chris Margetis and Mike Carey. Thank you to the audience, those of you who are tuning in live and those of you who will be watching this later on. 2023 is off to a great start. Until tomorrow, stay safe. And on behalf of all of us, stay walking. Good night, everybody.